very much for that quite European welcome. Can you hear us all right? Is that all right? Can you hear us here? I mean, it's not like all the picket lines in the world. Picket lines, in my experience, are meant to be in February at the back of an industrial estate with 6 old blokes in donkey jackets. So this is particularly cheery. I have to say, first of all, I think the way that cabin crew staff are treated generally, even before this strike, I've always felt very, very sorry for the cabin crew. It's my experience there. But this is also probably the only picket line where you have to stop every half a minute for a scab plane. Also, I've not been myself to the picket line. I hope to, not only to support you fine people. The reason why you have been in the news in the last few weeks, of course, is not only because of the dispute that you've got, but also because of the response to it and because of the strike ballot that you've had, which I'm sure you know the figures for, and which was then ruled as being illegal. First of all because of one technicality, and then because of another magnificent one, that there were 11 spoilt ballot papers, which is an extraordinary legality for them to try and come up with. And if that was right, then of course the whole general election would have to be cancelled and rerun and fought all over again, over and over again. And anybody with any sort of logical thinking must have seen this legal ruling and thought, well, they were just going to come up with any technicality they want. I thought, what imaginative ruling are they going to come up with next? If you have another ballot, are they going to say, no, that one isn't legal either, because this time the union didn't announce the result in a Geordie accent? And then Tony Woodley would have to come down and go, well, it was 89% in favour. And then the law lords would say, no, I'm afraid that was more of a sort of Middlesbrough, really. And you've got to have it all over again. And then we get to a point where Willie Walsh makes the magnificent statement that it is clear the vast majority of our staff have demonstrated that they don't support this strike. Now, the reason that he came up with this is because the union was judging whether or not its members support the strike on the very dodgy and shady reasoning of going on the number of votes cast. Whereas Willie Walsh is going by a much more dependable logic of what he sort of wishes would happen. And I think it's a shame, really, that they didn't get Willie Walsh to do the election night broadcasts on election night. I think he'd have been marvellous. He'd have said, well, there's another result in there. The Conservatives getting 14,000 votes, the Labour Party 11,000, and the Liberal Democrats 9,000 in that constituency. And so the winner, the Portuguese Social Democrats, who absolutely stormed it. This is, but it's not just... it's not just Willie Walsh. Also, has anyone else thought this as well? I think that Willie Walsh is frightening. Obviously he's frightening, but he's frightening because the nastier he gets, the quieter he gets. And when he's on the news, he gets quieter and quieter and quieter. Until he's like Al Pacino in The Godfather. And you expect him to say, don't ever, ever ask me about my fucking business. But it isn't just Willie Walsh. That's the sad part about this story. If it was only Willie Walsh, if it was only a few law lords and a few MPs, it clearly isn't that, because there is their side, the Willie Walsh side. They have something that they know and that they understand. When they say we're all in it together, George Osborne's phrase, we're all in it together. And I suppose maybe he means all of us who are worth £30 million or more are in it together. Maybe that's what he means. But it's probably not what he means. What he's trying to do is to sell something, not just to the British Airways staff, but to everybody, to all of us, that it's our fault. It's our fault that this world is in a mess now. It's not the bankers. Maybe the bankers caused it, we don't know, but now it's all of us who've got to pay for their mess. And when the politicians tell us that, when all the politicians, and extraordinary, just a few months ago, that they were all caught fiddling in a way that if anybody on benefits was caught fiddling a millionth of that, they would be on the front page of newspapers and put in jail and told that they were a disgrace. And yet these people These all-in-it-together people fiddling on a scale that is unimaginable. When they can fiddle the bill for cleaning a moat, that is almost worthy of adulation. It is so imaginative. I actually always feel sorry for the MP who was caught fiddling for the bill for cleaning a moat, because when he put that in, he must have thought, right, no one's going to top that. And then a couple of weeks later, oh, for fuck's sake, a duck island, he's trumped me. And the genius of fiddling for a duck island, as if this is what normal people... He actually said when he was caught for that, well, it was all perfectly reasonable, this is an expense, not even an apology, as if this is what normal people expect to be able to claim. He must think that down the job centre or at the unemployment office, people sit there moaning. When they're moaning, they're going, look, I haven't had me bill for the I haven't had me chip for the duck island. How am I supposed to manage? My ducks are having to go right across my pond all in one go. They're knackered. This is the world that these people live in, the all-in-it-together people that think that somehow it is the fault of all of the poor people that have to pay out of their pittance that they have so far to be able to pay for the bankers' crisis. And yet, the other thing, I think, because it's not just that this is one unfairness being that they are trying to carry out, the unfairness of what the management are trying to do to the BA staff. It isn't just that, is that it goes right across the country, it goes across everywhere. But the other thing that I think is cheery is that it's not just the people here today who can see that. So then I think it's marvellous. If you've been a socialist for years and years and years, you find yourself in a peculiar position at the moment, because for years and years, you know, I've been saying to people, as I'm sure as many people have, I love the idea that at the moment they're probably thinking, quick, make an announcement about the refreshments, it'll drown out the booing. If you're a socialist, or if you're someone who supports trade unions, then for years and years and years you've been saying to people, I'll tell you who ought to be sacked, it's the bankers. If we sack the bankers, then that would make a start. That would make a start to sorting out the world. And for years and years, most people, to be honest, have said, yeah, whatever, mate. Now, if you say to people, you know what we ought to do? We ought to sack the bankers. You say that to someone now, and they're likely to say, sack them? Sack them? Never mind sack them, we ought to strip their skin off and smear them in marmalade and lock them in a box full of wasps. Never mind sack them. Spray them with tuna fish oil and chuck them in a Sydney harbour for the sharks. Bloody sack them, what's the matter with you? So... the chances that the crew are going to go, hang on, do I hear a whistle? This is a different world, I think, from the one that it was a few years ago. It's a world in which millions of people, I think, around now, millions and millions of people, probably as many as ever, feel that there is an unfairness in the way that the world is organised. That clearly there is an unfairness in every aspect of life. That profit seems to be what determines what goes on in this world at every point. Everyone who's got kids knows you go into a school now and you see adverts for supermarkets all over the place, as if this is what a school should be for. Hospital, there's a company that runs hospital car parks that last year made £93 million profit out of presumably thinking they'll be limping, they've got no choice, we can't lose. This is the logic that runs everything. That is why the Willie Walshes of this world are presented as the people who can get us out of the crisis, when for most people they're the people who create it while they take all the wealth. And so just the two things that I would like to just finish up by saying to you is, first of all, it's not right for you to thank people who come and support you. I mean, lots of people come up and say, oh, thank you for support. I know it's very flattering, but it's not us who should be thanked by you, it's you who should be thanked by everybody else, because this isn't just about one strike. This is about a country now, and indeed a Europe now, or even a world now, in which a handful of absurdly, ridiculously, filthily rich people are trying to make people with very, very little pay for the crisis that they have created. And therefore every group of people such as yourself who make a stand and say we're not going to put up with this is not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for everybody else as well.